everyone, for the next video in our Shadow Work with the Tarot series of viewer request videos, we're going to be talking about one of the cards that people most fear to draw when they're working with tarot, whether by themselves or having a reading done by someone else, and that's the Death card in tarot. This is the Tarot of the Vampires deck by Ian Daniels, and this is the deck I'm going to be using for this series. So this is another card that, just like the tarot, I'm always very excited and intrigued to see when it shows up. There are a lot of themes and powerful lessons that show up when the Death card arrives. Now, occasionally the Death card can indeed mean an actual physical death. And this is an aspect where there's some great debate in the reading community as far as, does this card mean physical death? Does it not mean physical death? In my work with tarot, there are times when this card has indeed meant a physical death. But the card's always very clearly talked to me and told me that it is a physical death that's possible when this card shows up. And it can mean a physical death for the person that's having the reading done or for someone in their life. But it is a sign that something needs to come to an organic end and a conclusion. So whereas in the Tower, this death, this ending, has felt very drastic, in the Death card, this is something that is more of a natural process that has occurred and needs to happen. So it can indeed mean a physical death at times, but it can also mean the ending to a cycle of our life, to a relationship, to a job, to something that's no longer serving us and that we're hanging on to because we've become comfortable with it and feel safe with it. And the Death card is telling us that it's time to let go of that and that there needs to be a period of mourning in which we allow ourselves and respect ourselves enough to give ourselves the space to feel the sense of bereavement fully, and to be sad, and to really acknowledge and be aware of the fact that something's finished and that it's not coming back the way it was ever again. That aspect of a relationship or a way of being or a time in our life, that's really over. We're not going to be stepping into that space again or feeling that energy again in that same way. So it's more of an organic ending and a time to mourn, really, when the Death card shows up. And that's been my experience with the Death card. Again, each of us has our own experience, but when this card shows up in readings, I'm always very intrigued and interested to have a conversation with my client and to really get down to what it is that needs to be released, because quite often it's something that we don't want to talk about because we don't want to release it. And so the Death card is requiring us to have some soul searching and to at least take a few moments to really look at what needs to be let go of in our life. And when it is a physical death that's being spoken of, many times it's a death that there isn't anything we can do to change, because it is indeed telling us that there are physical consequences and the ending of a physical way of being. I mean, we all leave our bodies at some point. So death is always going to happen. And this is a card that's telling us this is something that's always going to happen. And it's a process that we need to stop fearing and instead embrace in our lives and in the lives of other people. And we need to start honoring death's cycle when she shows up. And every single image in this card has meaning and symbolism, which is what's beautiful. And I love the fact that snake is present here, and that this is the birth card of Scorpios. So we're bringing in that water energy of Scorpio as well with the Death card, and honoring that change needs to occur and that we have to step into a new cycle of our life, but that our time of bereavement is recommended and would be wise for us to allow ourselves to have. So again, even though this card is one of the most feared cards to draw and is in many ways thought of as a negative card in tarot and is something that a lot of people like to change the name of when they when they work with their different decks. I feel that the name Death serves a purpose in tarot and serves a purpose when it shows up for us and should be honored and respected as such as well. We have to have an honoring for both the light and the dark. So that is how I choose to work with and interpret the Death card when it shows up, and it's a card that I always have deep respect for when it shows up and that I tread carefully with, because I know that there is something that needs to be discussed that can quite often be very difficult for people to talk about, and so requires time and delicacy and an understanding of the strength and wisdom that the Death card is bringing to the table. So I hope you found this video helpful, and I will see you in the next video in this series. Take care, guys.